Hello, everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to be playing some Legacy Magic the Gathering with this Eldrazi post deck that we currently have in front of us. Been on a little bit of a hiatus. I've been playing a whole lot of Magic Online recently, but we're going to come back to it. Kind of getting the itch. I've been out of Legacy and out of Modern for a little while here. Been kind of getting stuck playing a little bit too much Arena and too much Standard. So we're going to go back to playing some Eternal formats, and we're going to start enjoying Magic here. Um, Again, like I said, this is the Eldrazi post deck. This deck has been around for a little while. It seems to have been falling a little bit out of favor, at least with the Legacy Online metagame. Some of the combo decks appear to be coming back, which is not great for this deck. I mean, this deck is trying to prey on the fair decks of the format, not necessarily the combo decks. But so I made a couple of small tweaks here to the deck from the last time I was playing it. I moved Trinispheres into the main deck. I had Trinispheres in the sideboard previously because, like I said, your main deck is designed to beat the fair decks. So I took it and I slanted it a little bit more towards combo here. So our main deck, we're going to have a little extra interaction. We've got 4 Chalice of the Voids, 4 Trinispheres, and then 4 Thought-Knot Seers, which is pretty much what we're going to be relying on against combo decks. You still have your package of cards that are good against the fair decks. I mean, turn two Thought-Knot Seer, turn three Smasher, Endbringers, all of that stuff is still great against the fair decks. So I just wanted to slant it a little bit. Um, but outside of that, I made a small tweak to the mana base here as well. I was playing my utility lands were a little bit different, so I did kind of change utility lands up a little bit. So there's currently one Karakas, one Thespian Stage, one Urborg, and one basic Waste. I have the basic Waste because there's a fair number of the aggro loam decks floating around on Magic Online right now. So if especially that and lands, if they're on the versions with Ghost Quarters, there's still the mono red prison deck that still exists in the format. So I wanted to get a basic waste into the deck somewhere. Some people play two. I think two is a little overkill. But I like having these other utility lands here in those places because, like I said, Karakas helps you double up against combo decks. Urborg lets you turn off your Ancient Tombs so you're not taking so much pain. There's definitely reasons to be playing those other lands. So let's see here. We're also going to go to our sideboard, see what changed in our sideboard. My big thing was, like I said, this is still very anti-combo oriented. There's 4 Thorn of Amethyst, basically for anything that's playing a lot of spells, Storm, Sneak and Show, anything like that. I put Warping Whale back in the sideboard. This is also for Sneak and Show. I mean, you get to counter their Show and Tell, which is great, but this is also something that doubles up against Delver. The Delver decks have been starting to kind of come back around, so I wanted to add a couple cards for the Delver matchup. So we have Warping Wheels, Ratchet Bombs, and Sorcerer's Spyglass that come in against stuff like Delver, Wasteland decks. The Stirring Bridge is pretty much for Sneak and Show, and it's also for Reanimator. And Leyline of the Void is pretty much specifically for Reanimator or the aggro loam deck if we run into any of the light from the loam decks. But so, like I said, there's been a couple tweaks to the deck. The deck's still pretty much the same for the most part, but there have been a few adjustments. So what we are going to do here is we're going to go hop in our league and we're going to see how it goes. But Eldrazi is just one of those decks that I enjoy playing. I don't play it necessarily because I think it's one of the best decks in the format. It's something that I just have fun with. I like playing the big mana deck in Legacy. I mean, I'll play a little bit of everything. I'll play the blue decks. I'll play Delver. I'll play Death Shadow. I'll play some of the Grixis control deck. Like I'm my interests are pretty scattered when it comes to Legacy. I'll play a little bit of everything. But this is just a deck that I actually enjoy playing. It's a deck that's something I have a lot of fun with. So Chalice of the Void locks out a large percentage of the format, so if you're able to play Chalice of the Void, like it gives you a fair game against a lot of other decks. So I'm interested to see what actually changes here with this metagame. So I just took quickly here, this is the Legacy Challenge from this past weekend. If you just look at the Legacy Challenge here on the side, you're looking at, so Sneak and Show, Mono Red Prison, Black Green Depths, 2 Ad Nauseam decks. Like you're seeing a lot of the unfair decks are starting to come back into the format. So this probably isn't a great metagame choice right now online, but we'll see how it goes here. I mean, that could have been something very specific to that to that meta for that event. I don't know, but we're gonna find out here. So we get to win our die roll. We get to go first, which is excellent. So this hand has a lot of good mana. I mean, you get ancient. You can play a turn one Spyglass. Turn one Spyglass. You get double Eldrazi Temple, the Eye of Ugin. This hand is definitely on the slow side, but I think I'm going to keep it. Having the turn one Spyglass is kind of the thing that's pushing me into keeping this hand. You have your Wasteland protection, and if your opponent's relying on a fetch land in their hand, you can also name the fetch land. This is an awful matchup. So we're playing against lands. Lands is a very hard matchup, but their hand is not particularly good. So they have two Grove of the Burn Willows, they have a Punishing Fire, Mox Diamond. We just don't really care about any of these cards. So we're going to name the Thespian stage here. We can either name Thespian stage or we can name Wasteland just in case they draw the Wasteland. But like I said, the rest of their hand is actually bad against us. Let me think here for a second. So they have one stage. The stage is currently not doing anything in their hand. So maybe we just name the Wasteland and hope they don't draw it. So I think that's what we're going to do. I mean, regardless of what they do here, like if they find a Life from the Loam, they get to start churning through their deck to try and find a Dark Depths. But we don't really have any way to protect against that. We could have named the Thespian stage, but I don't know. I think it was a fair line. The land we play here doesn't really matter. We're gonna have to wait to try and play this Walking Ballista outside of Punishing Fire range. I mean, if we can have a couple turns here, we can get a fast Ulamog. So that's what we're going to be shooting for currently. We're just going to try to churn out this Ulamog as fast as we can. So currently we have 2, 4, 6 mana. So, I mean, we can play it in 2 turns. So we're basically hoping that we just dodge Dark Depths. Gamble. All right. Let's see what they're going to go for. They discarded Ancient Tomb. Orishadan Port. Okay. Yep. I thought Us Here was a good draw at least. So this actually will let us take the Punishing Fire out of their hand unless they drew something else. So what did they gamble? Oh, they probably gambled for the Dark Depths. Well, that's pretty unfortunate. I mean, there really isn't anything we can do here. Exploration, okay. So we have to pay for Tabernacle here. I mean, I guess if we don't, yeah, I think they're just gonna get us here no matter what. Because even if we untap and play the Ulamog, they just get to copy it in response. So I think we're just dead. So we're gonna not pay for Thought Not Seer. We'll let them draw their card. Yeah, so now they're not gonna port us because now they can make the Dark Depths at the end of the turn. All right, so I guess we're just gonna cast our Ulamog here. We're kind of at the point that we have to hope our opponent makes a mistake. So we'll hit the Dark Depths, we'll hit the Thespian stage, and we'll see what they. I'm assuming they're just gonna do it in response, and they're gonna kill us. But we'll make sure they do it, not that they accidentally click through it. Now they should just get to attack us, and that should be the game. Like I said, lands is actually a very difficult matchup for this deck, just because they just don't care about anything that you're doing, and they're faster. Lands is definitely one of the matchups where you really don't want to see it. So we can bring in Spyglass. I mean, the alternative would have been like we could have Spyglass for Thespian stage, but because we knew they had it in their hand. But I don't know. So we can bring in Spyglass. We get to bring in the Ensnaring Bridges. And like you could make a minor argument for Leyline of the Void just to cut off Life from the Loam, but it's probably not good enough. All right, so let's see. What do we not care about? Trinisphere can definitely go. Walking Ballista is not great either, so we'll probably trim a Walking Ballista. All his dust is also not good, but sometimes you can get them in a pinch where if they have to make a Merit Liege on their main phase, sometimes you can get them like if they needed to block, you can second main phase and all his dust. Like it's definitely difficult to make all his dust work, but there are some scenarios where you can get them. And also if they sideboard into the Tireless Tracker plan, all his dust is not terrible. I don't think we're gonna bring in Leyline of the Void. Like I said, the Leyline is basically just for Loam. I mean, we could like if you cut the Walking Ballistas completely and the All is Dust. I mean, maybe that is better. All right, I convinced myself. I think we're gonna try it. All right, this hand's fair. You have the ley line. You have lots of mana. But this is going to be the hand that could be soft to like a wasteland draw. But at least we can't get Loam wastelanded. Caracas is a nice draw. Okay, so Tabernacle's not the end of the world. this game we actually have the mana that we can pay for it. So actually, that was a minor mistake. I should have paid. I think I probably should have paid for this with the Eldrazi Temple, because then I could have played Vesuva, and we would have had 2 mana with the Cloud Post, and we could have played Grim Monolith. So that was actually a mistake on my part. So now this turn, we either don't play Grim Monolith, or we can go Temple Grim Monolith instead. Maybe we'll just do that. We might. I think we're just going to go Temple Grim Monolith here, and then next turn we can still play the Vesuva. We don't have anything big in our hand that we're playing currently anyway. But just in case you draw something like an Endbringer, it would have been nice to be able to play it next turn with the extra Cloud Post mana. Then you wouldn't have to use your Grim Monolith. So at this point, we just want to draw. We just want to draw some creatures now. We're completely set up. We have plenty of protection. We have ley lines against Loam. We have the Caracas in case they draw somehow figure out a Merit Liege, and we have plenty of mana. So let's see. If we play Vesuva, we're gonna get 2 mana. So we'll have 2, 4, 6, up to 9 mana. So everything is 2 mana here. So it doesn't really matter how we do it. All right. So we'll pay for this guy. Thought-Knot Seer is not bad. So let's play Vesuva, copy Cloud Post. Now we have 4 mana here. Let's play our Thought-Knot Seer. So they're going to crop rotation. Okay. So I guess we'll take the Tireless Tracker. And we will attack here for 3. And now they don't have enough mana. They can't Dark Depths this turn. So now next turn we'll be safe to play this Caracas. They didn't have any Wastelands in their hand. You generally want to try to slow roll this Caracas as long as you can, because you don't want to give them the window where they can Wasteland it. All right, so we'll pay for both our guys. So let's see. So they're planning on Maze of Ithing this turn. I mean, we could still hold on to this Caracas for another turn now, because Maze of Ith doesn't tap for any mana. So let's go to our attacks. They're going to maze us. They're going to take 3. So they still don't have mana to do this, so we're just going to play the Glimmer Post. And say go. Alright, so now they have 2 Maze of Iths, so now we really need to find something here. We definitely need a little bit of help. Thespian Stage is not what we wanted. It's interesting because next turn we might actually consider letting our Matter Reshaper die. We could have done that this turn too. So This turn we have to play the Caracas because now they have the mana to Mazavith both of our creatures and they can activate Thespian Stage. So we do have to play the Caracas here. Okay, they drew a Rishadan Port and a Tracker. All right, so we're going to pay for Thought-Knots here. I'm going to let the Matter Reshaper die this turn. I want to draw the extra card, see if we can get something going here, because we're starting to get into a pinch. Ulamog is a terrific draw. Oh, there you go. So our opponent, we revealed that Ulamog and our opponents see it, so they just conceded the game. Yeah, so we were gonna play Vesuva, we were gonna copy a Cloud Post, and we could cast Ulamog. The Ulamog was gonna let us take the Dark Depths here. We were just gonna probably take Dark Depths and like I don't know, like that's definitely I don't know if they really should have conceded there. I mean, it's bad for them, but the game's not over. All right, so let's see what we got here. Do we want to make any changes? I think I'm going to keep the one All is Dust. We've seen multiple tireless trackers, so I think we'll keep the one All is Dust in. And I think that rest of that's fine. Looks good to me. All right, so this hand has a turn one Chalice. We do not have the Loam. We don't are the ley line to stop the Loam, but this is a keep. All right, so we have turn one Gamble. They pitched a Loam. Oh, that's incredibly fortunate. So now they get the Dredge Loam next turn. All right, so Chalice for one against them is fine. Like it shuts off Gamble, it shuts off crop rotation. Like it's not great, but it's definitely shuts off some of the cards. If we can draw a second one, the Chalice for two is actually what hurts them more. All right, so they have a Wasteland this game. All right, so we were playing a tap land next turn anyway. Hopefully they don't have too many Wastelands. I mean, we have a couple lands here. We can afford to get Wastelanded probably once. If they have a second Wasteland, that's I think where we could be in some trouble. They have a port. Yeah, these are the kinds of games that we're going to have a hard time getting out from under when they have the Wasteland port draws. Yeah, now we drew the Spyglass. The Spyglass is almost going to be a turn too late because next turn they're going to be able to cast Loam and Wasteland us. Let's see what they decide to do. Yeah, so they're going to cast Loam, get back Wasteland, probably Wasteland or Cloud Post. Yep. I mean, we definitely have some draws here. We can string together a couple creatures. So if we ever get a turn where they don't wasteland us, or if we draw like a 2 mana land, we can get a Thought-Knot Seer into play next turn. You could draw something like an Ancient Tomb or Eldrazi Temple. If we can start beating in for a couple damage a turn, like it might not be unreasonable to actually come back into this game. So now that they're letting us do this, this could be a Punishing Fire. So I'm actually going to attack first. Let's see if they Punishing Fire us. They do. Okay. So I guess a land would probably be one of our best flips here. That's pretty good. All right, so we'll take the temple to the battlefield. All right, so now we actually now we can kind of try to stabilize here. So we get to play a Thought-Knot Seer and we get to play a Sorceress Spyglass. All right, so let's play Spyglass. We're going to name Wasteland here. So their hand's actually on. They have the K grip. Okay, so they're actually gonna be fine here because they have the answer to our Spyglass, so they can still keep us try and keep us off of our mana. But we will name Wasteland. By naming Wasteland, it forces them to K grip for a turn, if that's the plan they want to still be on. Okay, so we get to take their K grip. We have the mana to pay for the Thought-Knot Seer. We get to play another Thought-Knot Seer next turn. They just took a natural draw the way it looked. They're going to need some help. That flip off that Matter Reshaper was huge. Because that allowed us to double spell last turn. So not only did we get to put in our Wasteland protection, we also got to keep our clock in order. All right, so let's pay for Thought-Knot Seer. Let's see where they're going to port. Drowsy Temple, okay. All right, so our hand's not very good. Okay, so they just drew a land. So they just have 3 lands in hand. They have 3 lands in hand, and we have 3 dead cards in our hand currently. So, I mean, we have 2 creatures on board. They got back their Punishing Fire, so Tabernacle, Rishadan Port kind of taxes our mana here a little bit. Now, if they, let's see, what can they draw that would be really problematic for us? I mean, Maze of Ith would be really annoying. More mana. Okay, so they're going to port us again. We're just going to play another land. We get to hit them for 8. And we cannot add anything to the board, so we have to say go. All right, so now they have access to a double punishing fire to kill one of our Thought Knot Seers. So they're going to double punishing fire, which is going to leave us with some mana this turn. So this is going to be a good turn to try and draw another threat because they're going to be tied up doing that. So if we can draw an Endbringer or anything even along those lines, even like a Matter Reshaper, but we definitely want to draw some kind of a creature here. All right, so let's pay. I'm going to use the Ancient Tomb again. I want to leave us with the maximum amount of mana possible going into this turn. That is not a good draw. All right, so this we knew. Our opponent is going to 3, and we can still not do anything. So it feels pretty bad sitting here with 4 total bricks in our hand right now. All right, well, we might have a hope here. And Punishing Fire is currently in the graveyard, so they don't have enough mana to Punishing Fire our Thought-Knot Seer. Let's see what they're going to do here. At first, it looked like maybe they were going to crack their clue, but they chose not to. All right, so I was hoping that they were going to do that because if they cracked the clue, the game was over because we can just all his dust, wipe their board, and hit them with the Thought-Knot Seer. But now that they're keeping the mana up, so we're going to have to pay for Tabernacle, and they have enough mana that they can crack, go get the Punishing Fire, and still be fine. All right, so now we can pay with Glimmer Post instead. Now they're going to crack the clue. Well, that's good news for us. All is dust. And that's it. All right, all is dust lets us steal the game there. Like I said, there's definitely some some areas in that matchup where, like I said, they're going off, trying to go off with the tracker, or if they have to main phase the Merit Liege. Like it's like the card's not great, but there's definitely some scenarios where it'll pull its weight, and obviously you've seen it right there. I mean, we had a couple of draw steps. We definitely bricked for like 5 turns in a row there, and it was still good enough. We were still able to weasel our way out of it. All right, so we are on the draw this game. We're going to keep his hand. This is still a turn 1 chalice. So we're on the draw, so it's slightly worse, but turn 1 chalice is still very good in a lot of matchups. Playing against Storm. So let's, I guess, hope we don't get turn one. I mean, we can't ask for any better of an opener here. We have turn one Chalice and turn two Trinisphere. So if they don't kill us next turn, this Chalice is going to cripple them. They have a very difficult time winning through a Chalice of the Void. This might be like a Brainstorm in response. Yep. All right, so they just played another LED. They didn't play a land, so we're just going to play Trinisphere here. Yeah, we'll play Trinisphere, and then next turn we'll play the Matter Reshaper. We're just trying to lock them out of the game here. And that's it. They've had enough. Like I said, Chalice is already tremendously good against them, but when you're pairing Chalice with Trinisphere, like the game's just over. Okay, so we want more hate. We want Thorn of Amethyst. We're going to bring in Ratchet Bomb. Ratchet Bomb is a card that gives us an easy out to empty the Warrens. And we're going to bring in Leyline of the Void. Probably not Warping Whale. There's a few targets for Warping Whale, but it's usually not good enough. All right, so the easy cuts are Spyglass. Matter Reshaper is a card that is not good here either. All Is Dust is also not great. And Ulamog is also pretty poor. So we want the cards that are still gonna. We want all of our disruption. So like I said, we've got Thorn, Chalice, Trinisphere. That's all the obvious disruption that we want. We still have our quick clocks. We still have Thought Seer, Smasher, Endbringer. Walking Ballista is only okay. Like you can definitely cut something like Walking Ballista or Matter Reshaper. One of the reasons I kind of tend to cut Matter Reshaper first is because you're hopefully your plan is to try and spend your early turns playing the mana rock or the taxing rocks here. So you can play a Walking Ballista a couple turns after that, and it's going to just be bigger and do more damage than a Matter Reshaper. So that's one of the reasons I tend to keep the Walking Ballistas in over the Matter Reshapers. Matter Reshapers are better in like the grindy matchups because you get the additional trigger, which is what makes that card really good. So something out of our opponent sometime, depending on what kind of list he's playing, he might be playing something like Hercule's Recall in his sideboard. So that's something to kind of be slightly mindful of, but it's very hard to play around. Like if they have it, most of the time we're just going to lose to it. I mean, this hand has a turn one Chalice, so we're going to keep it. We're basically looking to play any of these hate artifacts on the first turn. It's very difficult to keep a hand that doesn't have a quick Chalice or a quick Thorn or something like that, because most of the time you're just going to be dead. So you really have to have some piece of interaction here. Okay. So our opponent pondered, Thoughtseize. They're going to take our Chalice, but they also only have 3 cards left. So not having that Chalice, we could just be super dead here. We kind of have to hope that they have to flounder here a little bit. That's a great draw. I play Vesuva, copy the Ancient Tomb, then we can start playing Walking Ballistas next turn. Thorn slows them down, but depending on their draw, they can actually win through a Thorn. See, now they have two LEDs, so they have a lot of mana. So this is the kind of draw where they actually might be able to win through the Thorn. All right, so we drew Chalice. We're going to be playing Chalice this turn. It's kind of just a matter of what we're going to be setting it on. Chalice on 1 shuts off a lot of their rituals. I mean, you can Chalice on 2. Chalice on 2 is going to shut off Infernal Tutor, Burning Wish, any of those types of cards, but I think we're just going to play it on 1. Now we do have to pay 3 mana for it because of the Thorn. Okay. All right, so we feel fairly safe right now. Now we can start playing some Walking Ballistas and start doing some attacking here. So we have 2, 4, 6 mana, so we can play a 3/3 Walking Ballista. That's a lot of Walking Ballistas. Now this was Suva. We might just copy Thespian Stage here. There's nothing else in play that we really want to copy. We don't have a Cloud Post. So we're kind of just hoping here that they don't have a Hurkyl's Recall somewhere in their deck. Because if they have the Hurkyl's Recall, we're just going to be dead to it. Okay, so they have to kill us this next turn. I'm not going to go nuts here and pay 1,000,000 mana, just in case they can somehow finagle with small tendrils. So I'm just going to play another 3/3 Ballista. We're going to try to shoot them for 9 here, unless they've got something going on. Oh, that's it. That's good enough. Okay. We're off to a nice little quick 2-0 start here. And actually, so first one we got a rough pairing was against lands. So that's a bad matchup, but like I said, there are some weird windows where you can find a way to win it. But so round 1 we got to beat a pretty bad matchup. Round 2, Storm is I don't know, I don't like playing against Storm, but you have some draws that are good against them. Like I said, we had the Chalice Trinisphere draw, which they're not going to beat game 1, and we drew a couple extra hate pieces game 2, so that was good enough. But if you have a draw where you just got a pile of creatures, you just really don't stand a chance. So Storm is a matchup that can be very scary if you don't draw the right pieces. But fortunately, we did draw the right pieces that game, and they were good enough. So all right, let's take a browse here. We're gonna go back and check out this legacy challenge from this past week. So I'm always interested just to see what other people are playing. I always kind of watch the names too. There's a couple of names here that you can watch, and if you see the name and you run into them in a league, you can kind of guess what they're going to be on. Brian Cook is the normal Storm guy. You see his name all over the place. He's one of the big Storm players. For anyone who doesn't follow Legacy, that's someone that you can pretty much almost always assume he's on Storm. Oh, we get to play a mirror match from last round, so we get to play against Storm again. So our opponent must have, what happened was he must have finished his league. We must have been his 5th round in his last league, and now we're going to be his first. So we know we're playing against Storm, or assuming they're playing the same deck. So I'm actually going to mulligan this hand. If we were playing against an unknown opponent, I would keep this hand because we get to go turn 1 Spyglass into a fast Endbringer. But this one I am going to throw back. Fortunately, this is also a mulligan, so we're going to have to go to 5 here. All right, so we're on 5, so we're going to have to keep this hand at this point. And we're going to have to hope we find a either a Thought Knot Seer or a Chalice of the Void here very quickly. So our opponent is still on Storm. Are we dead? So Sorcerer's Spyglass doesn't do a whole heck of a lot in this matchup. I mean, you're going to name like a fetch land. So Spyglass doesn't work on mana abilities, so you can't name Lotus Petal. Basically, we're going to be naming a fetch land, which is pretty lackluster. So I think what I'm going to do is play the Grim Monolith here. So next turn we've got lots of mana. We've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 currently. So next turn we're going to play Reality Smasher. We can play Reality Smasher and we can play a Chalice if we happen to draw it. Okay, you need to take our Spyglass. Deal. I wouldn't even object to drawing like a Cloud Post or another Vesuva here to try and set up to play an Ulamog. Because that would give us 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12 mana for the next turn. So if we draw a Vesuva or a Cloud Post, we'll have 12 mana on the following turn, so we can go Smasher into Ulamog. Our opponent only has 3 cards in hand, so that is something. So our opponent revealed a Cabal Ritual, so their hand is 2 Cabal Rituals. Fortunately, we're a mana short here of casting Ulamog. Because this is 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So the best we can do is a Smasher. They could definitely like Cabal Ritual into an Ad Nauseam here. That would probably kill us. Maybe not though, because they don't have anything special in their graveyard right now. And they're already at 13, so they can't take a million damage off of an Ad Nauseam. So there it is. Ritual, Ritual. Dark Petition. Now they're going to ad nauseum. Okay. So they're ad nauseum with only one mana in their pool. So let's see what they're going to reveal here. Two Cabal rituals, a bunch of cantrips, a Thought Seize. That was pretty poor for them. So they have to try to kill us this turn. Now they're already at 5. Now they get to go. They're looking for stuff like Dark Ritual, Lotus Petal, and they haven't found any of it. So this could be a good sign for us. Duress, Ponder, all of these cantrips don't do anything. All right, so they kill themselves flipping a tendrils. So this is definitely what happens sometimes. There's a lot of times with the Storm deck, like they took damage early in the game. They took a shot from the Reality Smasher, which was actually enough to get them out of range. They were a little unlucky on that ad nauseum there, but I mean they're playing a deck that they're playing a deck that is definitely reliant on their draws, and their draw was not great. So all right, so we get to bring in. We're sideboarding the same way we did last time. 4 Leyline of the Void, 4 Thorn of Amethyst, and 2 Ratchet Bombs. What comes out is 2 Spyglass, the 4 Matter Reshapers, 2 Ulamogs, and 2 All's Dust. So we were sideboarding exactly the same way. And also last game, the last match we played against them, you got to see why the Walking Ballista was also better than the Matter Reshaper. So you get to attack for the 3, and you get to do the additional 3 damage to close out the game faster than the Matter Reshaper. So that's also another reason why you want to keep that one in instead. All right, so we're on the draw this game. We're on the draw. We have the opening hand ley line. We can go. We have turn 1 Monolith, turn 2 Thought-Knot Seer, so we're going to keep this hand. I mean, we don't have a Chalice, we don't have a Thorn, but outside of that, our hand is. We have the Hate Piece for Past in Flames, and we have a fast Thought-Knot Seer into a Reality Smasher. Our opponent's also on a mulligan to 6, so we will keep this hand. All right, so opening hand, Grim Monolith. Your turn. So now next turn we actually play Thought-Knot Seer and Reality Smasher in the same turn because of this Eye of Ugin. Chain of Vapor, Bouncing Leyline. Okay. So if they're doing that, maybe their hands on like a Dark Petition this game. I got some bad news for you, my friend. You can take that ley line, but you've got a lot of pain coming your way. Well, that's a tremendous draw. Does that change anything? So we can Thought-Knot Seer and take whatever the last card is out of their hand. We can also play the Smasher. So we can go Thought-Knot Smasher, or do we want to take a turn off here and play the Chalice? I don't think so. I think we're just going to go Thought Knot Smasher and we can play the Chalice next turn because they're only going to have one draw here. So it makes sense to start doing some damage here. And then next turn we get to play the Chalice still. And now we also have them on 2 turns. Oh, he's had enough. He didn't even have to see the Chalice and he was good. All right, so I always find it kind of amusing when you get to play against the same guy twice in one league, especially when it's back-to-back matches like that. I mean, we already knew the matchup going into it, so it definitely let us change our mulligan decision game one. Because like I said, if we didn't know that matchup, we would have kept that opening hand and we probably would have lost that first game. Because like I said, it was just that first hand was very poor against Storm. So actually looking back here, so we've seen all those combo decks. Um, Death and Taxes has made kind of like a surprising resurgence. I've seen a lot of players playing Death and Taxes, and honestly, I don't think Death and Taxes is very good right now because it's not good against the Grixis deck that people were playing a lot of. I mean, maybe Grixis is just starting to fall out of favor because I hardly see any here. There was a period where Grixis was two, three, sometimes two or three decks in the top 8 of these challenges, but it's definitely fallen off. All right, so we're on to play this game. This hand is a mulligan. I mean, we're going to keep this hand. It's very dependent on the deck that our opponent's playing. We're going to bottom the All Is Dust because we need some lands. We have so many chalices this game. I think I'm actually going to play a chalice for 0. Like, just in case you happen to be playing against Storm again, if you chalice for 0, you can shut off their Lotus Petals and LEDs. The only reason I'm making this play is because we know we have another chalice in our hand that we're going to play next turn. If we didn't have that, I would not have made this play for chalice for 0. Because now we just get to curve chalice for 0 into chalice for 1. Our opponent goes Island Ponder, which could be a million different decks. Could be Miracles, could be Grixis, could be Combo. Force of Will pitching Spell Pierce. So that's some type of a. It could be Sneak and Show. Could still be Sneak and Show, yeah. Sneak and Show plays a lot of Spell Pierces. I'm actually going to play Chalice again here. I don't want to play Grim Monolith. I'd rather get. If they had the Force the first Chalice. If they had the Force the first Chalice, like, I'd much rather just jam the second one. This way, also, if our opponent is playing Show and Tell, we can Show and Tell and put Endbringer in. It's not great, but now we don't have to cast the Endbringer, and we get the Chalice into play on ahead of turn. That's what it looks like. It looks like our opponent's playing Sneak and Show. It could actually be like an Omnitel version. A lot of times, Impulse goes in the heavy Omniscience builds. So if they Show and Tell an Omniscience, the game's probably just over. But if they have to Show and Tell a creature, we might have a chance. So a little bit of good news. They only have one red source, so they can't play sneak attack and activate it in the same turn. That is one thing to be mindful of. They could just play sneak attack here. We're gonna cast show and tell. Okay. So they show and tell a sneak attack, and now they can activate sneak attack. So they still found a way around it. So we're pretty toast. We'll let them Emrakul. So we have plenty of permanents that we can sacrifice here. So we'll let them attack. What do we want to sacrifice? So it's going to be Urborg, Chalice for 0. We basically get to... We're going to keep Endbringer, and we're going to keep one of these. One of our lands, or the Chalice, or the Monolith. All right, so Cloud Post is an interesting one to keep. So you kind of want to keep one land. This Chalice, I kind of want to keep the Chalice. Because Chalice is going to shut off a lot of their cantrips. If we keep Monolith, we're only going to get one use out of it. We can, if we keep Cloud Post, that would allow us to draw a land. If we draw a land, then we can still keep them off of attacking us because we can use this. Or I'm sorry, it's only one mana to activate this ability. So maybe we actually do keep a land. Yeah, that's going to be the plan. So we're going to keep the Cloud Post. So this allows us to attack the Endbringer for 5, and then on their turn we can untap with it and keep them from attacking us with another creature. So we're going to keep the Cloud Post. So now this means they're going to need to get us with, they're going to need to try and hit us with 2 creatures in the same turn. Okay, so they don't have another creature, at least not currently. So we can deal 1 to them. Go to 12. Play Grim Monolith. Spell Pierce, okay. I'm going to attack here. If they have a creature that they're going to put into play to block, they're going to have to sacrifice it on their end step, so I'll attack. We have to try to kill them. We can't just sit back behind this Endbringer the whole time. All right, and that's good enough. So our opponent missed. They did not hit another land. So like I said, it's you can actually, if you're playing against Show, don't ever concede to the Emrakul. Sometimes they just attack you with an Emrakul and they don't have another creature, and there's not, and you can find your way out of it. For us, we were fortunate that they didn't put in an Omniscience, because most of the time the Omniscience is going to kill you. All right, so this is going to be another combo match that we have to decide for. So we get to bring in Thorn of Amethyst. We get to bring in Ensnaring Bridge. Leyline of the Void does not do anything against them. Warping Well can come in because it counters Show and Tell. Ratchet Bomb is not going to be good enough. So let's see. What do we not want here? Spyglass is not great, but we're going to see what cards we're cutting. So 2 Allah's Dusts are not good. We're also going to cut the Matter Reshapers again. We will cut our Ulamogs. We have to cut one more card. Maybe just Tremor Walking Ballista. Like, I think we're going to keep the Spyglasses. I think we want to keep the spyglasses because of sneak attack. We could just cut one spyglass and play just the two copies because outside of this, like that's really the only thing that we're going to be naming. Yeah, I think we'll do that. I think we'll cut once. We'll just play the two spyglass. That would be my that's really my only other consideration here is maybe I'd trim a walking ballista first for the other spyglass, but this matchup's going to play out similarly to what Storm is. I mean, you want to play your hate pieces early in the game. You need to try to slow them down so they just don't get to kill you with no resistance. This hand, so if they have show and tell, we have both Caracas and Endbringer. I mean, having the Caracas is definitely something to say about this hand, but after that, the hand goes downhill pretty quick. I mean, it's slow, so you're gonna go turn one Temple, turn. You're gonna probably go turn one Temple, turn two Monolith. You can play a turn three Endbringer with Caracas, but there's no other, none of the other artifact hate. We're on the draw, so I think I'm gonna keep this. We're gonna keep this, but I think this is definitely on the weaker side. This is gonna be kind of similar to last game. Like we're gonna be really weak to an Omniscience, but if they're just gonna show and tell a creature, we could be fine. Cloudpost was actually not a bad draw there because now we can go Cloudpost and a Glimmerpost and like it gives us some extra mana. We weren't doing anything with our mana on the first turn anyway. So this is just a turn two show and tell. So if they're just gonna slam a turn two show and tell, I'm gonna put the Caracas in. So we can end step, bounce the Griselbrand. Let's see how many cards they would like to draw. Okay, so they only took 7. So Griselbrand was their first discard, which means there's a good chance they have multiple Griselbrands. This is one thing that's kind of interesting is like you can actually look in the order that people discard, and sometimes you can kind of try and figure out what the cards are that they're discarding. So if his first discard was a creature, you know he's got more fatties in his hand. He discarded a show and tell, so he could definitely have like either another show and tell or a sneak attack. All right, so if we play Glimmer Post, we're gonna have 2, 3, 4 mana. I think we're just gonna go Glimmer Post Grim Monolith here. We want to keep the Caracas up at all times. That's a card that we're probably just never gonna take down for the rest of the game. And then now next turn we can start playing Endbringers. This could be a sneak attack. That's kind of my assumption by what I'm seeing here. Show and tell again. Okay. I mean, unless they can double activate. A double activate here is pretty good. So our opponent actually had a mistake there. They could have actually activated sneak attack there again, but the way it's set up on Magic Online, I think they missed a stop. Like all these stops here at the bottom, like had they done that, I could have bounced it with Caracas, and then before they still go to their other attacks, they could have activated the sneak attack again. So I think that was an error on their part, which now we actually could really capitalize on because now we get to play our Endbringer. We can have Caracas and an Endbringer activation up. All right, so we get to go Eye of Ugin, 2 mana, play another Endbringer. Oops. Yeah, 3, 4. So now we can play. Yeah, this is how we're gonna do it. So play another Endbringer, attack with Endbringer. Okay, counterspell's fine. Now they only have 2 cards left, so we get to attack. I mean, I guess they can get us here if they have 2 creatures in their hand. But now we get to stop 2 creatures from attacking. We have both Caracas and the Endbringer ability. And we're at 22. So a single hit from any creature is not going to kill us. So we will shoot you for 1. Warping Whale. So let's see here. If we attack with this Endbringer, they can put in Emrakul. They can put in Emrakul to try and block the Endbringer. I don't think they have 2 creatures, because if they had 2 creatures, they might have tried to attack last turn. Either that or they're going to try to end step us here. So how big can we play this Walking Ballistas for? So we have 2, 3, 4. We could play a 2/2 Ballista. A 2/2 Ballista doesn't really help us this turn, because that's going to do 2 damage from the Ballista, 2 damage from the Endbringer, so we can't kill them this turn. We definitely need another turn. The only way we get to kill them this turn is if we attack with Endbringer. Let's say they put in Emrakul. We bounce it with a Caracas. Like, we can beat 1 creature. I don't know if we're going to be able to beat 2. Alternatively, we could just not attack. If we don't attack, we still get two two abilities next turn off of the Caracas and the Endbringer. I think I'm going to attack here. He also didn't play a land last turn, so if he has two creatures, he's got a double Lotus Petal. So now we can bounce with Caracas. So he can put his Emrakul back in. Oh. And he has a Gristlebrand? Alright, so that's pretty bad for us. So we did have both the creatures. Yeah, that's really bad for us because he drew the Gristlebrand. Alright, so that's probably gonna lose us the game. Maybe it was too greedy on my part to attack with the Endbringer there. Alright. Well, he got us there because he had the multiple creature draw. Okay. So we're still kind of in the same question if we want that last Spyglass or not. I think I'm going to bring that Spyglass in. Just because we've seen how difficult it is to play around a sneak attack. Alright, we'll keep. So we have a turn one Thorn. Lots of mana in the Endbringer. Come on, opponent, let's go. Alright, he's deciding. He took a mulligan. Our opponent went from 7 to 6, which is good news for us. And he's still thinking, so not gonna lie, got my fingers crossed. Not gonna be sad if you go to 5. Alright, he decided to stay at 6. Okay. Ancient Tomb, Thorn of Amethyst. No Force of Will? No Force of Will. Alright, so now we get to play a Grim Monolith, and then we get to play an Endburger next turn. So hopefully that Thorn really hurts them. They have no colored mana. So what do we have? Three, four, five, six. So we can definitely. So how do we want to go about this? We could play Eye of Ugin and just play it off of Ancient Tomb, Eldrazi Temple. If we play Cloud Post, we can go Cloud Post and still pay three, four, but then we have to use our Grim Monolith. So I think we're gonna play the Eye of Ugin here to save our Grim Monolith. No Force of Will, which is good for us. All right, so our opponent took a mulligan to 6 and kept a pretty sketchy hand the way it looks. So if we play Glimmer Post, we can actually activate the Eye of Ugin this turn because we'll have three, four, five, six. No, I'm sorry, we don't. So because it's three, Temple does not count for 2 mana for the Eye of Ugin. So it's three, four, five, six, seven. No, we can. Yeah, we can actually play Glimmer Post here and activate the Eye of Ugin this turn. So that's probably going to be the plan. Could play Eye of Ugin, go get probably a Smasher. Yeah, this Eye of Ugin is probably going to get a Reality Smasher. Okay. So did they draw the Lotus Petal? Now they have a colored source. They can cast a Show and Tell. They are not casting a Show and Tell. Okay, so Endbringer is going to do one to you. Let's activate our eye. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So let's see. If we get a Smasher, we're going to attack for 5, 10, 10 damage on the ground. 11 damage is going to be the other ping from the Endbringer. And then how much mana do we have left over? Can we kill them with the Walking Ballista? So we're going to need 2 for the Smasher. No, 3 for the Smasher. We can get a Thought-Knot Seer. Maybe we get Thought-Knot Seer. Yeah, I don't think we can't kill them next turn. So yeah, so let's count again here. So if we get a Smasher, we play Smasher, we get to hit them for 10 plus the tap ability from the Endbringer. So we can deal them 11. 12, 13. So that means they could still get an activation out of the Ancient Tomb, or we can play Walking Ballista. Yeah, because we don't have enough mana because this is gonna cost us 3 mana just to play the Smasher. Then we're gonna have two, four. So we can play a 2/2 Ballista. We're gonna be what looks like 1 damage short of killing them. So let's see. If we get Thought Not Seer, we're going to attack for 5, take them down to 9, 8 with the ping from this guy. We're going to get the Thought Not Seer, take probably a Show and Tell out of their hand. Maybe a sneak attack. I mean, I guess it depends on what their hand looks like. And then we're going to set up to kill them the next turn. So I think we're going to take the Thought Not Seer here, actually. Just because we're slightly short. Yeah, I'm actually going to take the Thought Not Seer because, like I said, we're one damage short by my count. Play Thought Not Seer. They are responding with a Brainstorm. Okay, so at least we're making them use the Lotus Petal, which is not nothing because we know they're tight on mana. So actually making them use that Lotus Petal is could actually be pretty significant here. Really don't care about any of these cards. If they want to play a Ponder or an Impulse, that's fine. Gristlebrand's we just don't care about because there's 2 of them. And Cunning Wish doesn't matter either. So I just don't think because even if they hid like a Show and Tell on top, like they could play Show and Tell, put in a Gristlebrand, and it doesn't really matter. I'll just take one of the Ponders, just because it's the cheapest spell. It's the cheapest spell for if they do like Show and Tell Omniscience. So we'll take a Ponder. Or no, I'm sorry. We're gonna take Cunning Wish because not that way they don't like get in some shenanigans where they Show and Tell Omniscience and get the combo off that way. So that's why we'll take the Cunning Wish. All right, so now we get to attack with Endbringer. Opponent goes to 7. So currently we can make let's see, a Walking Ballista for if we play Ancient Tomb, we can play a 2/2 Walking Ballista. We're just gonna hold the Walking Ballista in our hand. So that being said, we're gonna go Grim Monolith. Oops, let's not do it this way because we need to. I want to make sure we keep this activation up just in case something weird happens here. Okay, I feel pretty safe here. So even if they have like Show and Tell Gristlebrand, we can still make it so we can't block next turn. We can attack with Thought Not Seer and kill them with the Walking Ballista. I mean, you're talking they're only going to have one. They only have one blue source for this turn. So a show and tell is not going to be good enough. So even if they tap this Ancient Tomb, they're going to go down to 4, and they're just dead to the Walking Ballista on its own. Ponder. Okay. I mean, Ponder is good for us. Like, they can't actually do anything with this. Yep. Okay. All right, so we have a sweet little 4-0 here. We've definitely played against a couple of subpar matchups, to say the least. But round 1, we beat Lands. Round 2 and 3, we beat Storm. And round 4, we got to beat Sneak and Show. Now, so, I mean, everything has actually gone pretty well, as far as our ways been concerned so far for this league. Except for that one game, that second game against Sneak and Show there, where I made that attack. I mean, I that might have that I'm the more I'm thinking about it, we probably should have just not attacked that turn, because you could tell that they were trying to set up where they could like end of turn, put a creature in, and on their turn put in another creature. So that was actually a very greedy attack on my part. I mean, outside of that, I think everything else has been pretty much coming up Millhouse and stuff that we're happy with. So that's just a line to be aware of how to Sneak and Show. Like they can put a creature into play on their end step, and they don't have to sacrifice it until their next turn. So, all right. So let's see. What do we got here? I'm kind of interested. I'm just actually just looking at these trophy leaders here. So we got Louis CBR, Matt Zolay, EW Landon. Those are the kind of the guys that we typically get to see at the top of the standings for a lot of these legacy leagues. Those are like your regular Magic Online grinders. Louis CBR, he used to play a lot of Grixis Delver. I don't really know what he's playing nowadays. It used to be Grixis Delver and Eldrazi. Matzole, I know Matzole was an aggro loam player. I ran into him quite a few times playing aggro loam. EW Landon, he used to be like the hardcore reanimator player online, but I know recently I've seen some lists from him that were coming up. He's someone that's testing the Grixis Arclight Phoenix deck in Legacy. All right, so I have no idea who we're playing against. We are on the play, and this hand is going to be a keep. So the hand is going to be really soft to a wasteland, because if we go Cloud Post on turn 1 and they wasteland it, we're going to be in some serious trouble. But if we go Cloud Post, untap, Glimmer Post, we have access to either Chalice of the Void or Trinisphere. So we are going to keep this hand, but there's an avenue where this hand could fall apart and be really poor against a wasteland. Island is a good sign. Island Ponder. All right. So Island Ponder, huh? Caracas is actually, I'm actually happy to see the Caracas. Most of the time when I see just straight up Island Ponder, I kind of assume that it's Sneak and Show, but that's not necessarily the case. Like it could definitely be something different. So we're gonna go, I guess, Glimmer Post, probably Chalice of the Void. I mean, if they have a Force of Will, they're countering whichever one we play. It doesn't really matter which one. At least Chalice of Void plays around Daze, just in case we're playing against the Daze deck, but Island Ponder is usually not a Daze deck. The only thing that's going to kind of shy away from Trinisphere is because if this is, excuse me, if if we play Trinisphere, we're going to have to pay 3 mana for the Chalice of the Void next turn. It's a little inconvenient, so I'm going to lead on the Chalice. See if our opponent. Let's see if we can bring it up here. Do they shuffle on that Ponder? Yes, they did shuffle off of the Ponder. So they were looking for something specific. Force of Will pitching Snapcaster likely means it's going to be one of the control decks. So now we can kind of adjust our game plan around that. So Stoneblade, okay. All right, so this is going to either be Blue-White Miracles or Stoneblade. All right, so now we get to play Vesuva. We get to copy Cloud Post. So we have 4 mana here. I'm just going to play Trinisphere. One good thing about the way this hand is shaping up is we can beat a Batterskull. So we're definitely not scared of the Batterskull this game. It would have been nice to have this Thought-Knot Seer last turn, so we could have taken that Batterskull just out of their hand, just not to even have to deal with it. Now, I mean, Swords to Plowshares is still going to be an annoying card. I mean, they now have to pay 3 mana for their Swords to Plowshares, but so we have 6, 7, 8 mana this turn. Kind of tempted just to play this Thought-Knot Seer. Because if they're passing like this, that means their plan is likely just to put Batterskull in the play end of turn. If they want to Swords to Plowshares, I Thought-Knot Seer, we get the nab the Batterskull out of their hand. This also lets us take a Jace, so they can't just untap and play a Jace next turn. All right, so here comes the Batterskull. I mean, both of those cards are good against us. I will not lie about that. Both of those cards are very good against us. I think we have to take the True Name. Because if they get to untap and play True Name and then put the Batterskull on the True Name, that's going to lead to sad days for us. So I think we take the True Name, we let them plow our Thought-Knot Seer, and then we can play the Endbringer. So I think that's going to be our line. I would like to draw a 2 mana land here, so we can play this Ulamog. So if they attack with the Batterskull, I might actually just block with the Matter Reshaper, just to give us another shot at the land. Yeah, I'm actually gonna block here because I want the Matter Reshaper trigger, and that's an excellent land for us. Now we get a huge burst in mana for our 2 Cloud Posts. All right, so each Cloud Post is currently 4 mana. So we have 4, 8, 9, 10. We have 11 mana. So we're going to be casting an Ulamog this turn. What would we like to do with it? I think it's going to be Batterskull Island. So we know they have another land in their hand, so they have a Scalding Tarn. So we can't keep them off of double blue. So like if they draw a Jace or something, they're still going to be able to Jace us. They can't force a will here, so that is definitely something. So we're going to play this. Yeah, I think it's going to be Batterskull Island. So okay, so they drew another Swords to Plowshares. I mean, drawing another Swords for them is still very good for them. But now we get to play Endbringer. They don't have infinite Swords to Plowshares in their deck. Yeah, so we're gonna go Thought-Knot Seer into Endbringer here. All right, so that's a good one. So we get to take Jace. All right, so they're looking pretty hard on this brainstorm here. They need some serious help. If they can brainstorm into like a Terminus, I mean that's their way into this game. Okay, so Stoneblade, how do we feel about this? So we finally got the fair matchup that we wanted. After playing against all of those combo decks, we finally get the fair matchup. Leyline of the Void, we do not want. We do not want any of these Thorns. We do not want these Ensnaring Bridges. So these are kind of our options. Warping Will's not great. Like, hitting a Stoneforge Mystic's not going to do us enough. Spyglass, we're gonna want the Spyglasses for Jace. Because Jace can be an issue for this deck sometimes. So we're definitely going to look to do some trimming here. We're going to take out, I think, the 2 Trinispheres, especially on the draw. We're going to bring in Spyglass and the Ratchet Bombs. I want the Ratchet Bombs mainly for back to basics. Most of these decks play some number of back to basics in them, whether it be 2 in the main, 2 in the side, something along those lines. So I think I want all of that. I definitely want the Ratchet Bombs for that reason. Now we need to make one more cut here. The Ulamogs are great in these matchups. Walking Ballista might be our cut. I kind of like to trim one Walking Ballista in a lot of scenarios. So, like, if there's ever a singleton card that needs to come out, we can definitely get away with cutting one of the Walking Ballistas. This is going to game that could potentially go long. So I do want the Ulamogs. All His Dust has a lot of potential as well. Getting to clear the board of like a Jace and a Stoneforge and True Name and stuff like that. That's a good reason to have the All His Dust. So I think we're just going to trim a Ballista. Call it a day. All right, this hand's good. Okay, so our opponent wants to ponder. Our turn 1 play is going to be easy. We're just going to go Cloud Post and the Glimmer Post. Probably Spyglass on Jace. We'll see if we draw a land here to play some Thought-Knot Seers or not. Chalice of the Void is one of the cards that could change our plan. Chalice of the Void is also very good against these decks. Chalice of the Void shutting off Swords of the Plowshares is an easy way to steal this game. I'm going to say, hopefully they don't have the back to basics. If they have the back to basics here, we could be in some serious trouble. When you have these this mana base where you go like multiple cloud posts, I mean they're great if you get to untap with them, but if they play like a back to basics or a wasteland, you can really get punished. So Spyglass here, I think we're just gonna name Jace the Mind Sculptor. I mean, unless for some reason we see their hand and it has like multiple Scalding Tards or multiple Flooded Strands or something like that. But if they just untap and go like back to basics into Jace, that's the one of our worst case scenarios that we're probably not going to be able to come back from. Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's good. So they went Island Island, which is pretty scary. So like I said, we just have to cross our fingers here and hope there's no back to basics. Yep. Okay, so we're going to get to do a whole bunch of nothing here for a while. Is this it? Is this the Jace? Uh, Ponder's not the end of the world, but they get to see a lot of cards with the Ponder, so that's still a little bit worrisome. All right, so we just get to keep passing the turn here. Fortunately, we don't get to do anything now until we get to play some lands. They had their trump card in the mirrors in the match, so they're definitely going to have it sometimes. I mean, this monolith is. I mean, the monolith is +1 mana, I guess, technically. So if you play it, you get it's +1, so. But then we also lose our lands for the rest of the game, so I'm actually just not going to play it here. All right, we'll take our 5. I mean, Ancient Tomb's not a bad draw. I think we're going to have to hold out here and hope we rip a few lands in a row to all his dust. It's unlikely to resolve, but that's really our only way back into this game, I think, at this point. Next turn, if we draw a land, we can play an Endbringer, but I mean, Endbringer still loses to a counterspell, and it still loses to a Swords of the Plowshares. So we could play if we tap these two, we can play a Monolith. That would give us 3, 4, 5 mana, and we could draw a Soul Land to play in all his dust. So I think this is actually a turn where I think I'm going to play the Monolith. That way, it does potentially give us the out of drawing another Ancient Tomb next turn. Well, not anymore. All right, that's enough for me. I've seen enough. All right, so we'll go to game 3 here. Okay, so let's not see a back to basics this game. We're on the play, so that's going to be a help. I'm not going to change anything here with sideboarding. Like, your only other card that you might want is you might want the Trinispheres back in the deck, but like, they're okay. They're nothing special. All right, we're back. We're on the play. We have a turn 1 Chalice of the Void and a turn 2 Thought-Knot Seer. This is what we play this deck for. We're going to hope that there's no Force of Will in our opponent's hand. Our opponent kept 7. Do they have it? They do not. But they did show us Disenchant, so they do have removal for it somewhere in their deck. All right, so I'm just going to go Ayabugan Thought-Knot Seer here. Oops, wrong button. Okay. Okay, so what do we got here? So they got a bunch of cantrips. They have Stoneforge and they have Batterskull. We're going to take the back to basics because next turn they're just going to play Stoneforge and we can shoot it down with the Walking Ballista. So this is a relatively straightforward line here. So we knew they drew the Flooded Strand. So they're going to get another land next turn. They get Jite. Okay. I'll shoot this guy down. Attack. And currently their hand is a pile of bricks unless they draw something relevant here. If they draw a true name, I mean, a true name is going to be a little bit of an issue for us, so let's hope they don't do that. So I'm going to play the Ratchet Bomb. We're going to play one of them at least, so we can start ticking it up. That'll give us an avenue to technically beat a true name if they do draw it. So they drew a land, so they now have 4 mana if they draw a Jace. We're going to play a Walking Ballista. And pass a turn. So Walking Ballista, now that since we're at 6 and we're taking all this damage off of Ancient Tomb, Walking Ballista also kind of protects us from a Vendilion click. All right, so that was a tremendous league. Our opponent scooped it up. We had a nice little 5-0 here. Let's see what we got. We got 16 chests. We got our 5 qualifier points, or 5 legacy points, and 3 regular qualifier points. So that was a tremendously successful league. I mean, outside of our one punt in that sneak and show matchup, I mean, everything else pretty much came up the way we wanted it to. And especially against some bad pairings. Like we definitely played against some decks that we did not want to see. So, but overall, I'm very happy with the deck. Very happy with the way everything performed. I do like to play a lot of Legacy and a lot of Modern. So if you're still hanging out here, I do want to say thank you very much. I appreciate you watching. And I will see you next time. All right, everyone. Thanks. Have a good one. Bye.